Oh, thank you. Good.
How you doing?
Thank you all for coming out this afternoon, and welcome once again to the Rock. Colonel, thank you for hosting us again. I'm here with Department of Transportation Commissioner Diane Gutierrez-Scacchetti, State Police Colonel Pat Callahan, President of the Board of Public Utilities Joe Fiordaliso, and the Director of Homeland Security Jared Maples. We are closely tracking the current storm system making its way across the state, and which will stay with us in one form or another through early tomorrow morning. The National Weather Service has issued winter weather advisories that cover all 21 counties because of the expectations for snow, freezing rain, sleet, and ultimately rain over roughly the next 16 hours. Yesterday evening, we issued a state of emergency, which was effective at 5 a.m. this morning for the entire state, and that declaration remains in effect. The New Jersey State Police have declared a commercial vehicle travel restriction, which includes tractor trailers, any passenger vehicles, towing trailers, motorcycles, recreational vehicles, and those towing any boats out there today, along all of our interstate highways. This restriction does not apply to the Turnpike, the Parkway from exit 105 and below, and the Atlantic City Expressway. NJDOT crews and contractors pre-treated many roads and remain out there to keep routes clear. I just witnessed that myself coming up from Camden on 295. DOT has also been coordinating activities with regional partners, NJ Transit, and the toll road authorities. Our main concern with this storm is its impact on this evening's commute because of the anticipated change from snow to a wintry mix just in time for folks to be leaving work. If you did go to work today and you could get out a little bit early to spread the commute so fewer people are out there at the same time, please consider doing so. In preparation for this afternoon's commute, DOT towing equipment and NJ safety service patrol trucks have been staged along trouble spots on I-280 and the Jugtown Mountain section of I-78 in Hunterdon County. Those are two areas where we invariably are dealing with challenges, and we deploy the incline packages as a result. When you're on your way home, please take it slow and use common sense and caution. Stay clear of any plowing or spreading operations. Do not try to pass them, and conversely, if they're behind you, please let them pass so they could treat the roadway. If you happen to experience a blackout or power outage, please call it in immediately. Don't assume that your neighbors have done so. The more calls your provider gets, the better they can focus resources to restore power. And please, God, if you see a downed line, don't go near it at any cost and call that in as well. I think, in fairness, Joe, and you'll talk to this, the outages we have right now are minimal at best. So let's hope it stays that way. But given this weather, you can't predict that. And also do some common sense things. Take time now, for instance, to get your cell phone charged. Later tonight and into early tomorrow morning, as this system transitions to all rain, accumulated snow and ice may prevent water from draining. So be careful and don't venture into any flooded areas. As I always do, I encourage everyone to visit ready.nj.gov, ready.nj.gov for the latest updates from the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management, and www.511nj.org for real-time travel and traffic information, or at readynj and nj._info on Twitter, at readynj or nj._info on Twitter. We'll also be sharing information as we get it through the governor's office and our social media. As always, I want to thank the women and men of NJDOT and the New Jersey State Police and our county and local roads departments and first responders for their extraordinary work to keep us moving and keep us safe. With that, I'd like to bring up the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Diane Gutierrez-Scacchetti. Diane?
Thanks, Governor.
Come on down.
Yep. Really just what the governor said kind of sums it up for us at DOT. We do have over 2,000 pieces of equipment out there. as of just a few minutes ago. We continue to plow in South Jersey, so the weather has not made its transition yet. And so to the extent you can get home before that happens, obviously before the sun sets, it's always better to be moving in daylight than it is as those twilight hours and darkness sets in. So that would be our biggest call. We've given you all these tips probably for the last 6 weeks about not passing plow teams, about being prepared. Really, we just can't emphasize that enough. It's about your own safety. It's about the safety of the people who are out there working to clear the roads. So with that, I will turn it back over to the governor.
Before you go, anything on NJ Transit?
No, everything on transit's running. Not any reported delays based on weather. And the Turnpike and Parkway are running at 45 miles an hour. So that is important to note as well. We do have tractor trailers that are not necessarily paying attention to the restriction. We would just ask them to reconsider that. That is probably one of our single largest issues when those tractor trailers are out on our inclines and they're not able to make it. So again, reemphasizing that restriction is in place so we have less commercial vehicle incidents, not because of anything else. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. With that, I'd like to ask our host to come on up, Colonel Pat Callahan. Colonel, thank you.
Thanks, Gov.
God bless.
I'll just take a minute as well. First, just to start with what the state of emergency means. I still think there's some confusion across the state when the governor issues a state of emergency. What that really does is just serve as a tool to allow us to then put in place emergency protective measures. In this case, you saw that the state of emergency was declared at 5 o'clock this morning. In turn, at 9 o'clock, the governor delegates that authority to me to make that determination in consult with the DOT commissioner to do those travel restrictions. So we keep putting it out on our website. I just, some people, it's not a complete travel ban. It doesn't mean you have to stay in your home. I think it does set a sense of that abundance of caution that we want everybody either living in or traveling through the state to have. As far as accidents today, I think as of 1 o'clock, we were up to 75 accidents, about 120 motorist aids. We did have a jackknife tractor trailer on Interstate 80 at milepost 10, which speaks to why we want to do that. And during the last storm, we take a little heat with regards to commerce, but one of those jackknife tractor trailers interrupts commerce as well and sometimes leads to long, prolonged lane closures. So I just stress that those travel restrictions are not something that we enter into lightly. But again, at the end of the day, it is all about the safety of the motoring public, and that's why we make those decisions. I can also tell you that we monitor it very closely, that as this starts to transition to rain, that we will, upon being assured that the roads are safe, certainly lift and rescind that travel restriction and then ultimately the state of emergency. Governor?
Thank you. Anything on the school buses do you want to hit?
Yeah, there were two, just as one was not weather-related. There was a school bus accident in Monmouth County, which we were told was a medical condition of a driver into a bus, 7 children uninjured. And within the last 20 minutes, there was a school bus accident in Newark, New Jersey, at 14th and Jones. From what I got, those 14 children were uninjured as well. But again, early, school is letting out early, and the conditions in some spots may be slick. So those were the two that the governor was referencing.
Got it. Thank you, Pat, for that. With that, we'd love to ask the President of the Board of Public Utilities, Joe Fiordaliso, to come on up and say a few words.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. As of now, statewide, we have 212 power outages. So far, that's better than a blue sky day. So hopefully, 212 customers are out. Yeah. Hopefully that is the max, but I just want to reiterate what the governor said. If you do happen to lose power, please call the service provider. They don't know that you lost power unless you call and tell them you lost power. So please do that. And secondly, again, to reiterate what the governor said, a downed wire, please stay away from it. They are hot, and you're putting your life in jeopardy. So just please stay away from it. I'm feeling good about the fact that wind is not a factor, even if we do get some ice, because ice and wind are not a good combination with tree limbs falling on power lines. So hopefully that will hold true, and hopefully we will get through this with minimal amount of inconvenience for everyone. Thank you.
We also have some fairly significant warming coming as soon as tomorrow. Any comments on flooding? None reported at the moment, so that's something else that we're going to keep an eye on. So again, our biggest focus right now is, if folks want to have one takeaway, is this afternoon's commute, to make sure that you're taking it slow. If you can get to where you got to get to, most likely home, and you can get there a little bit earlier, that's probably on the margin a good thing, both for you and for the greater good. But in any event, please be careful. Don't get in the way of Diane's crews. Let them by if they come up behind you. And ready.nj.gov is my favorite place to send you for any more information. Any questions? Michael first. About what we expected. So some of these storms come out about where you think they are going to come out, and some of them don't. This is pretty much almost exactly what we expected. It started a hair later, but the transition from southwest to northeast, the snow, the expectation to go to wintry mix and ultimately to rain is still our expectation. Having said that, this is a little bit like having a discussion in the middle of the football game. So we're still playing the game. So, but up until now, about what we expected.
No loss of life.
No loss of life?
Yeah, I'm asking.
No, to the best of my knowledge, none. None. So let's hope it stays that way. Please.
To the Colonel, could you tell me the commercial ban, because that's something.
May I just say something before you jump in, Pat? This is probably the 10th or so storm that I've been associated with since being governor. About half of them were last winter, and about half this year. Multi-axle vehicles, invariably, one or two are going to jackknife. And the price you pay for that, if you're not either banning them or restricting them, or you're not pre-positioning towing and other equipment, is a big price, measured in some cases in hours. And so this is one that we take very seriously, even though we accept that there are commercial implications for it. We also do it, and I'll let Pat give more color on this, you do it in coordination with other neighboring states because you don't want unintended consequences. You do it, I don't, and you have a surfeit of vehicles in one state and a deficit in the other. So we do it in a coordinated way, particularly with Pennsylvania and New York for obvious reasons. Pat, come on down. And,
I'm not sure I can add too much more to that, but to start with where the governor left off with regard to Pennsylvania and New York. I know Pennsylvania had a travel restriction they implemented, I want to say maybe midnight last night. And it's all based upon that, about using caution and trying to keep those tractor trailers in rest areas off the highways so the DOT crews can do their job.
Is that based on the not bid?
The difference between a passenger vehicle, it's so much more easier to get a passenger vehicle pushed off to the side. Even our troop cars have push bumpers. We can get in there and push that off to the side to allow traffic and the snowplow operations continue. A jackknife or upside down tractor trailer is sometimes hours, and then you're also wondering what's the load. Is it a hazardous material? Does DEP or does health have to come out and condemn the load if it's, let's say, a food or a beverage? So there's a lot of tentacles to it. It's, again, we don't do it in a vacuum, but those tractor trailer accidents certainly interrupt snowplow removal and cause us a lot of grief.
There's no penalty. I mean, it's for.
Well, the penalty is a Title 39, which is our traffic statutes. Troopers, it's 39-4-215, and that's failure to obey traffic signals, and that's all the variable message boards that say it. Sometimes, again, I said it last week, our troopers use a lot of discretion. Last storm, they wrote a blend of hazardous summonses as well as written warnings. But we do need to send a message that we do take this seriously, because even just one accident, even separate and apart from the loss of life, is crushes any traffic that's out there, literally and figuratively. Diane?
Yeah, I do. So the other thing you have to think about is once that tractor trailer goes over, it jackknifes, it affects emergency responders trying to get to a multitude of places. We need to keep the roads as clear as we can. When that happens and cars pile up behind it, towing assets can't always get to the jackknife tractor trailer. Again, Pat said it best. You measure it in hours. People sit, or the governor, you measure it in hours when people are sitting out there. The other thing is we close the interstates, but we leave the Turnpike, Atlantic City Expressway, Parkway up to 105 open so that trucks can still move through the state. It's not that they can't pass through New Jersey. We're trying to take them out of the spots we know are the most critical to us in terms of being able to keep traffic moving. And when you get up to 280 and you get up to Jugtown Mountain and those trucks are trying to either climb up the hill or control their speed down the hill, that's our issue. And we like them to be careful. We're not driving their trucks for them. But if we don't put those restrictions in place, then it comes much more of a free-for-all. At least if we have those restrictions, we have better control and a better opportunity to keep the roads clear so everybody gets home in a timely fashion. As Pat said, one of those goes over, it could take hours to upright it. It could take hours to offload it. It's not an easy job on a good day, let alone on a snow-covered day.
I'm not making any policy decisions, but count me in the camp that I think the penalty for a vehicle violating a restriction should be higher and more onerous. Please.
What is the criteria?
Bless you.
None of the media.
I'm not listening to it, frankly. I'll tell you what the governor thinks about this. If this is the difference between getting a son or a daughter on a school bus or however home safely, or a mom or a dad home safely from work, and we can do that, and that can touch as many lives in this state, we're gonna be err on the side of better to be prepared and be cautious. We don't take any decision like this lightly. We don't do it just for the whim of doing it. We do it because my job, number one, is safety and security of the 9 million folks who call the state home. And so when the sort of the storm cabinet working group is on a call last night trying to make these decisions, you're looking at, in particular, this evening's commute really sloppy. So you've got considerations on largely moving people around, less so in this storm, at least so far. I'll knock on wood, Joe. We had several last winter that the much bigger burden was on power outages. Much bigger focus was on power outages. This one is one of these ones where you got to move people around safely. I was asked the same question in the last storm. There were 770-something individual traffic events in that storm. So that to me is a big deal. Now the good news is we're only at 10% of that now, which is great. It's also only 156. And the morning commute really wasn't an issue. I was in South Jersey and it started a little bit later. This afternoon is going to be a challenge. So we take into account the weather forecast, the ability for crews to pre-treat and pre-position, the state police to be able to do the same and deploy the Office of Emergency Management. So that's what drives us, safety and security of our kids, of our fellow residents and citizens, neighbors, and frankly, social media doesn't enter into it one bit. Please.
State Emergency Operations Center. So we're big on acronyms, so you'll hear it called the SEOC. But this is, again, it's the Fusion Center, but the Regional Operations Intelligence Center, and we are probably the only one in the state that integrates emergency management with the intelligence. That's it.
Does ROC stand for anything?
Regional Operations Intelligence Center. The SEOC is part of the ROC.
Michael, is this your first visit? Oh, my Lord. Okay, I hope that isn't a signaling event that this is going to get worse. God willing, it won't. Again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Colonel, for hosting us. Thank you, Diane and Joe and Jared. Ready.nj.gov when in doubt. Please, we're focused on this afternoon's commute, getting kids home from school, getting folks home from work. Please be careful, cautious, slow. Let Diane's teams do their work. Stay tuned. Ready.nj.gov is the best place to go. And when we've got anything to report on any developments, whether it's the state of emergency or the restriction on commercial vehicles, we'll be back to you. Many